What's up, everybody? It's your old pal Jay with another episode of the Tiny Wonderland. Now, as you saw in the thumbnail for this video, this is the, we would call this the backstory, because the channel, the content, all the social media and the website are all about the Tiny Wanderland and the Tiny Wanderer, which you're probably wondering why all this stuff. Well, in order for a story to be told, you have to start at the beginning. So, last I left you, I had just recovered from a broken back and almost a critical fall off the mountain. My landlord, who had been quarantined in Thailand due to the Philippines, due to the COVID-19 thing, he was coming home unexpectedly and wanted his house back. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of exactly what happened with that, guys. It's not really anything to think about here, but needless to say, he got his house back and I was on the street, which is fine because I was already taking a trip anyway. So no ill love for him. He was a good guy. He did his thing. I had a great place to stay, and time was up and moving on. Now, the question is, and one that's probably on your mind the most, where was I moving on to? Well, I was moving on to, you guessed it, I was headed for Utah. Now, I didn't really have a specific destination in mind, and Dean, the logistics manager, was going to kind of keep that, in the back of his head. He was planning things on the fly as we went. Remember, I was in a SUV that was packed to the gills. When you hit a bump, you went down like barely any because you were already on the ground from all of the weight up top and in the back. I couldn't even squeeze a fart, guys, out of what I was doing. It was crazy. But needless to say, I was able to make it to my campsite. It was pretty late when I arrived the first night, but it was a beautiful place. I could just feel the energy all around me. I broke out the camp stove and the whatever, and made myself my first camp meal. In the morning when I woke up, I decided to organize the place a little bit more. Now, I'm going to hang on this slide for just a second, guys, because I want you to see exactly what I had. I had a kayak, a camp stove, a bunch of water, portable toilet, tools, my tent on top, my dirt bike. You can also see there's a mountain bike in that picture and some few other computer things and sleeping bags. And so I had way too much stuff for the space that I had to occupy, guys. But still, I was recovering from a severe back injury, had just been ousted out of my place, and I was on an adventure. So I decided to continue with good spirits. That night, as it got dark, I said to myself, I wonder if I can see the stars from here. Well, let me tell you something. If you've never been to Utah and you've never seen the stars, woohoo, you got to do it, guys. You got to go. Trust me. I laid there all night, and I started wondering if I can see them this well through the tent, what happens if I actually set up my camera? Well, I was treated to an amazing view of the Milky Way. And in this picture here, if you look, you can just see the highway from where I'd come down on my way into Utah. You can see the lights coming over the highway. That's how far out in the canyon I was, guys. But it was a beautiful night. I just sat there, even though I was tired, still in pain from my injury. I sat there just probably for most of the night, just looking up at the heavens. So beautiful, guys. All right, well, it was time to break out all the gear and actually have some real camp food, which I did. I got my housekeeping set up top. That is a king size 5-inch memory foam. 3 inches of memory foam come with the tent, and then another 2 inches topper was put on top of that with my down blanket. Now, this was a very comfortable setup. I decided to poke my head up out of the tent and see where I was. And believe me when I tell you, the view all around was stunning. I did have a neighbor, guys. His name was Mark and Deb, and I wanted to take a minute and tell you about them. They full-time in an RV, and if you've ever seen them, they drive like Mark said. I think he said with his RV and his truck, he's like 60 feet long. I think he's 1 foot under the legal limit of driving. But Mark told me about, he had it's called a Razor, a side-by-side, and at the time I didn't know what those were. But Mark told me about some trails, so I started up the bike and started to investigate these amazing canyons all around me. To give you guys a little idea of the geography of where I was between the town of Kanab and Mount Carmel Junction, Utah. So anyway, the sights were just, whoa. unbelievable, beautiful. I was sliding around a lot because the side-by-sides use these trails and they rip them up. But I tried to keep in good spirits. I maintained. I found the Virgin River, which cuts through Zion National Park. And it was here that I just sat for a while, just kind of chilling, just the whole world was going to heck in a handbasket. You had COVID, you had all the craziness with all the Black Lives Matter thing was just starting up, I think, at that time, and the world was just falling apart. And I was just glad to be out in the beautiful wilderness. However, guys, when you go out there, you got to realize that you don't take your extension cord with you. And I soon found out that it wasn't all roses. I noticed that after just a couple days, my water started to melt in my giant cooler, and I had no way to leave that area to go get any type of ice. Well, thankfully, the awesome angel Mark stepped in. He was definitely set up for a more of a he just was set up for the life. He knew what he was doing. So Mark to the rescue, came back with 2 blocks of ice and 3 pounds of ice, plus he had a water tank in the back of his truck. He filled up all of my portable water tanks. And if you think that that wasn't awesome enough, he comes back up to the camp a few minutes later in his side-by-side, and you guessed it, I got to take the ride of my life out to these Indian ruins. There's Mark's Razor right there, him and his friend. If you've never driven a Razor or you've never been in one, strap on and at least try it. They are like go-karts on steroids. I mean, the things that Mark was doing on those things scared the living craze out of me. But we got to go to some Indian ruins and go through the trails at sunset, and it was just great, guys. It was absolutely amazing time, and I was just like, I couldn't even believe it. Like, all the world was going crazy, and here I was having these amazing adventures, and I just hung up my little plaque, which is "Don't Quit." I've had that since probably 20 years now, and just started to settle in. I found this really cool slot canyon when me and Mark were exploring. I know what you guys are thinking. Did you go swimming there? Forget it. The moment I went down into that canyon, it was mosquito central. On the dirt bike, I picked up a place called Hidden Lake. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm not gonna try to keep it a surprise. You just walk underneath that cliff. It's like 40 degrees cooler under there, but it's just a bunch of sedentary water in there. I wasn't super thrilled, but I definitely needed some firewood, and I was obviously injured and I couldn't pick up the wood, so I took my helmet bag and used it to put rocks in it and dragged them up to make myself a fire ring with the motorcycle and collected some wood. Obviously overexerting myself a lot, but you know what? I was out there in this beautiful place, and so I decided it was time to explore some more. I found a map in town, and I went to Hog Canyon. Now, I'm going to take a minute to tell you guys, Hog Canyon is a liquid dirt trail. If you don't have a side-by-side, if you're on 2 wheels or even a regular 4-wheeler, I cannot advise you enough to stay away from this place, because you will think, oh, it's beautiful, and look at it, look at the trail, it's just easy to drive, but eventually, guys, you will be bogged down in so much sand, you'll think you're in the Sahara Desert. But another downside is if you have really stiff wheels and you lower the air and you don't check your pressure, well, I can't remember this guy's name, but he's from Motodog in Kanab, and he helped me out. That basically is my tube he's holding. It blew at the seam because it was a cheap Chinese bike tube. He put brand new tubes in my bike and aired me to the right pressure. Next stop, guys, was a place called Al's Junction, and kind of just some sightseeing in Kanab. Amazing burgers at Al's Junction if you ever get out there. The local the local vehicle seems to be a side-by-side, but just some people watching. I decided to stop in a Glazier's Market just to see curiosity what a tourist town would fetch for certain things. Well, I'll just let you guys look at the prices here. Let's just say it's not your local Fry's or Smith's there, but Glazier's probably isn't hurting for any money right now. But I was the sticker shock was enough for me, and I decided to hit the road. Took a picture in front of the mural though, and saw some cool stuff in town, some cool cars. While I was there in town, guys, I was on the motorcycle. I got an alert that someone was at my campsite. I have sensors around my car, and it said that the car was being moved, but I was like, I'm out in the middle of the canyon. Who would be messing with me? It wasn't a person. That's right. That ladder is vertical. It was the wind. And if you're wondering why the campsite looks different, some things were taking place as I was up on the cliff with Mark that had me go and move my campsite. So I moved down to this place, which is called Twin Hollows, and I was just on the backside of Zion Canyon. But the winds there were ferocious. They literally ripped my tent stakes out of the ground. I finally ended up securing everything with rocks. I had a nice little spot where I could tuck everything in, keep my water cool. The advantage, I was by the river, so if I wanted to take a bath, which we'll get to in a minute, I could. The disadvantage was that there was a lot of wind there. So yeah, you could kind of see the little section there. And then sunsets were always early. I think it got dark at like 3 o'clock. But nighttime, I'll just let you guys enjoy these. It was hard to get any sleep at night. It just was. It was so beautiful there. And then it was back to the canyons for some more adventure, but I could only go so far. I wasn't a side-by-side, but this is where I would take my baths, guys. There's a picture of me, I think, right after a bath in the Virgin River. Now, I know in my other slideshows I had like videos and stuff that I was going to send you guys, show you guys in here, but honestly, I didn't really want to do that, and the reason why was because as this channel builds, I want to be able to share the video content with you guys as well from the story. So I'll start doing separate videos or montage videos without my voice in them. But these were my neighbors. They were everywhere, free-range cows. So I'm going to just real quick, you're probably wondering what this is. This is pictures of stuff that I had in my vehicle, and it became apparent I wasn't going to be able to heal alone. And my friend Heather, who I had dated about 12 years ago, had gotten in touch with me recently, and she also had been struck by the COVID. She didn't have it, but it was affecting her livelihood. So she decided that she was going to fly out and spend the summer with me. What we didn't know at the time, during the backstory, was that we would do so much more than just camp at a camping trip together. But anyway, I had to make room for her first, and that meant giving some stuff away to Mark. I ultimately was able to keep this stuff when I secured the trailer, which we'll get to later in the story. But ice every day was a battle. I had to drive the motorcycle down to the gas station and get the ice to keep the cooler replenished because I wasn't no longer near Mark. But a cold orange juice was well worth it. It was just a shot of the car and the tent. I don't know what I was doing there, but me goofing off driving, my Osprey backpack, some more. Okay, so guys, Heather was on her way. This is where the next part of the story comes up. She was on her way. She was headed to Vegas. I was going to drive to meet her in Vegas and then drive her back to the campground where our adventures would begin together. So I packed up the tent and I put a little pup tent in the corner along with all the, you can see there, all my stuff behind there. And my goal was to leave most of the stuff behind so that I could fit Heather in the SUV, which I did accomplish. And there you can see her ticket. There's my breakfast, me driving to Vegas. I'm going to share some photos from Heather from the flight as she was flying her way down. She took some photos of the flight on in. And this is Heather, guys. Say hello to Heather. She was my companion. She's also the secondary partner in the TW ownership. She also helped create the TW over the summer. And you'll learn more about Heather and all of our adventures in part 4 of this. So just stick around, guys, because you won't believe what happened in part 4. I hope you all stay safe. I hope you're having a good day. And we'll talk to you guys in part 4 of the series next time on the Tiny Wanderland. Take care.
I mean, it's peaceful. Yeah. So at least we have that, right?
It's been a while, been a really long time. I like it better now. I wish you stayed a while before we begin to say goodbye.